What's up, concert addicts? Johnny Kinswater here with Concert Addiction with episode 3, I think, of the Concert Addiction podcast. We're getting pretty far behind on this, so I apologize, but I'm trying something new again, so hopefully that makes it so we could just do this weekly. I've been having a lot of technical difficulties lately. I've been trying to get a co-host on here, Chris Stackrack Hoover, and I've just, between the technical difficulties and our schedule, I for some reason can't figure out how to record video and make the audio match up and shit using two mics. I'm still learning that shit. And so until then, for YouTube and the video purposes, it's just going to be me doing this. But then we'll do an audio podcast too, probably pretty frequently, where it'll be both of us on here chatting about all the concert news and stuff like that. But like I said, for today, it's just going to be me talking, and I haven't made one of these in quite a while. So I'm not going to catch up on everything since the last time I did this because that's just way too much shit. So we'll just start with just talk about all the shit that's happened in the past week or so, I guess. And we've had quite a bit of news, quite a few announcements and stuff like that drop. So we should have enough to talk about for, I don't know, at least half an hour or something like that. We'll see how it goes. Like I said, welcome to episode 3 of the Concert Addiction podcast. Now, before I get into some news, there's two things that I want to mention, just kind of acknowledge. They're not really news stories, in my opinion, at least not something that I really care to talk about a whole lot. The first thing would be Granger Smith. I have not made a video or any content since the tragic passing of Granger Smith's 3-year-old son, River, in a tragic accident, horrible situation all the way around. But the thing to mention here on this podcast, besides my condolences, although, like I said, this has happened I believe this happened about 3 weeks ago, something like that. Seems long ago in the news world, so I don't mean to be disrespectful. The only reason I say that is because so much more news has dropped since then that I'm going to cover. Plus, I don't really want to cover that anyways. I know to a parent losing a kid 3 weeks probably isn't shit, so I apologize if that came off insensitive. That was not my uh, that's not what I meant at all. But what I want to talk about is the fact that he's already performed twice and he's not canceling his tour. He's going back on the road. He has announced that he's bringing his family with him. That's a strong dude, man. Kudos to Granger Smith. I send my best wishes to you and your family, and I think it's fucking fantastic that you're able to still go on the road. Maybe that's what you need to do. I mean, you people cope in different ways, and it's cool to see that he's choosing to carry on with his life. I mean, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully he can get through this. This is obviously what he loves to do. This is what he was made to do. And yeah, Granger Smith back on the road even after the tragic passing of his son. Mad props over there, man. I'm so sorry for everything you've gone through, Granger Smith. I've met a couple times. I'm a big fan of his. His album that he dropped a couple years ago, When the Good Guys Win, that was my favorite album that came out that year. I have mad respect for Granger Smith, and I feel so bad for him during this time, but I am happy to see that it is not slowing him down at all, and I can tell that he's going to use the energy from all this negativity to produce a lot of good stuff, including him and his wife have already raised like over $200,000 for children's hospitals and things like that. So, yeah, mad respect to Granger Smith. Keep doing what you're doing, and I hope this works out for you. I'm looking forward to what comes in the future for you because greatness is often born out of tragedy, and you're already great. So, let's see what else you could do. So yes, condolences to Granger Smith and best wishes as he continues to go on the road even after such a shitty, horrible thing that I think I would probably just want to go into hiding forever. So he's not choosing that route. Good on him. The other thing I wanted to mention, it's just because I read something in a story that wasn't news. They were talking about something else, which if you've been on the internet in the past couple of days, you probably know that Lil Nas X of what's that song called? Old Town Road fame. Uh, Lil Nas X of Old Town Road, the number one song in the country for the past like year, and I couldn't think of it. Sorry, it's late. I'm tired, but I haven't made anything in a while, so I wanted to get on and make something. Super famous dude, super young dude, 20 years old. He's like I said, number one song. It's about to beat the record for the longest time being number one, which is pretty crazy. So mad props there. But the news all over the internet was that he came out as gay. That's fantastic. That's awesome. That's not really concert news, though, so I'm not going to talk about that. But one of the things that came up while I was reading an article about that was TMZ posted a story about how him performing at a recent concert in the UK somewhere. I can't remember where they were, but that's what inspired him to come out. It was just such a big moment for him. He just didn't want to hide anymore. Something to that effect. I'm not entirely sure of the details, but the thing was, they said performing this concert was what inspired him to come out. He performed in front of 180,000 people. I think Miley Cyrus was having a concert and she brought out her dad and him to do a song, because Billy Ray Cyrus teaming up with him on the remix and stuff. Apparently they become super close. Miley Cyrus calls Lil Nas X her little brother or something like that. It's pretty cool, but yeah, more so than the fact he's gay, I understand that's a huge deal, and bravo on him for coming out, because I mean, you shouldn't even have to. I just want that to be so normal already. I'm tired of, all the hate that comes with that. I don't think it should exist. You shouldn't have to be nervous to come out. So I'm glad that he did that. But the news to me is the fact that this 20-year-old kid who's been famous for less than a year is playing to 180,000 people. That is so awesome to me. This dude has already done more than a lot of very great and successful and awesome, talented artists do in their entire run. There's not very many artists that could say that they've played to more than 100,000 people, let alone 180,000 people. And granted, it wasn't his crowd. They weren't necessarily there for him. But there's a video, everybody's singing along, 180,000 people singing along to his song. That is incredible, and I hope this dude can keep chugging along, because he's cracked the code on something, and he's definitely here to stay, I think. I mean, damn, famous for that long, and you're already playing to 180,000 people. That's the news that I wanted to talk about, because, this is a concert show, and that's a huge thing. I can't believe that more people weren't talking about that as well. Like I said, I understand the importance of opening up about himself and stuff like that, so I'm not taking anything away from that. Kudos there, but I think people are just glancing over the fact that he played to that many people. That is just fantastic. And I'm not too big on the song. Obviously, that's just not my cup of tea music wise, and so I'm not going to pretend to know anything about that genre of music or anything like that. I don't know anything about the dude himself, but this is a tremendous feat for any artist, and for him to have accomplished it this early in his career at this young of an age. I've heard that he's working on an album and has a couple other songs out, but the only one that I've heard of is the one mentioned, Old Town Road. And yeah, he played it to 180,000 people. That is just, it's fucking incredible. So there you go. Congratulations to Lil Nas X. And I guess we'll get into the official news stories. Had some news drop today, so I guess we'll start with two big stories, I guess, dropped today. The first is the punk rock band, I guess is what you would call them. It's what I'd call them, kind of. Sleater Kinney, I believe is how you pronounce their name. I'm not too familiar with them, but I know they've been kind of rebelling for, I think, since the 90s. They've been around for quite a while. They're a pretty entertaining band there at Riot Fest a couple years ago, and I caught their set, and they're awesome, and I love seeing women rocking out like that, especially when they're so passionate about what they do and what they represent and everything like that. But it was announced today that Janet Weiss is leaving the group after like 24 years or something like that. And I got a statement from her that I'll read first, I guess. It says, letter to the fans, after intense deliberation and with heavy sadness, I've decided to leave Sleater Kinney. The band is heading in a new direction, and it's time for me to move on. I will never forget the heights we reached or the magnificent times Corin, Carey, and I shared. We were a force of nature. To the dearest SK fans, you're the raddest fans in the universe, and I love you. Experiencing the music together has been the honor of a lifetime. Thank you for sustaining me the past 24 years and for proving without a doubt that love and connection are what saves us. So, doesn't sound like she's leaving on bad terms. Seems like she just kind of wants to go on to something else. So mad respect there, especially when you talk about all they've accomplished as a band. She wants to move on to something else. Yeah, go for it. Plus, this does leave the door open for reunion, seeing as though they're not leaving on bad terms. At least it doesn't appear as though. And if they were, this is the good way to do it in the eye of the public, is at least make it look like you're not. Statement from the band goes as such: "We are saddened by Janet's decision to leave Sleater Kinney. It has been an incredible privilege to work with such a talented musician and drummer over the course of so many albums, including The Center Won't Hold. We thank her for joining us on this journey many years ago. We will always cherish our friendship and our time together. We wish Janet all the best as she starts a new chapter in her life. We are so excited for everyone to hear the record and see you on the road this fall and beyond. Love, Sleater Kinney." So it doesn't look like it's going to affect their tour plans at all. I'm not sure if they've tapped a new drummer yet. Not that I've read. Probably should have looked that up before I started recording. But if you've watched any of my content, you know that I'm rarely prepared. But yeah, the news is she's leaving the band, but also this isn't going to affect their tour at all. I mean, it will because she won't be there, but as far as dates and things like that, they're still happening, and I think it's cool to see. And like I said, even if there was some behind the scenes dirt that we don't know about, and there's no indication that there was, I'm just merely bullshitting at this point. It's cool that it at least doesn't appear that way, and hopefully there wasn't. Hopefully this was just a total mutual agreement, just, hey, look, I'm done. And voila, over with, done, cool. And like I said, in a couple years or 10 years, however long, they can reunite and make a shit ton of money on a reunion tour. So there's always that. And yeah, kudos to Janet Weiss. Weiss, I think is how you say her name. Sorry about that. But yeah, on to bigger and better things. And she carries the name Sleater Kinney. People are going to know her from that. They were a pretty successful band. They were a staple at all these punk rock festivals. I know I only heard of them because they played Riot Fest. And they were fucking awesome. So they left an impression, and they got fans all over the world. And they're just a bunch of badasses together. So you know that they're badasses alone too. And yeah, it'll be cool to see what kind of energy she brings for her solo shows, whether it's going to be similar, I'm assuming it has to be, or maybe she'll try a different tone. Who knows? She did mention that that's part of the reason why she's leaving, is just they're going in a different direction. She wants to do something else. Yeah, cool on her. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. The other big news story that dropped today actually goes along with a news story that dropped a couple of weeks ago, but as I mentioned, haven't had a whole lot of time to make any content, so I didn't talk about the previous story, so I'm going to bring that up now. Dave Mustaine from Megadeth revealed last week, 2 weeks ago, something like that, that he was diagnosed with throat cancer, which is very scary shit. They also announced, along with that announcement, that they're pretty much coming off the road for the remainder of the year, which sucks because they had a whole bunch of festival appearances planned and a whole bunch of tour dates planned, sorry. But the festival thing is what this news story is actually about. But before we get to that, I'll backtrack to the cancer thing, because that's big shit that I haven't talked about yet. So we're going to talk about it. And this was posted on June 17th. So I'm more than a couple weeks out on missing this one. My apologies. I'll read his statement. I'll read Dave Mustaine's statement on that cancer diagnosis. It says, "I've been diagnosed with throat cancer. It's clearly something to be respected and faced head on, but I faced obstacles before. I'm working closely with my doctors, and we've mapped out a treatment plan which they feel has a 90% success rate. Treatment has already begun. Unfortunately, this requires that we cancel most of the shows this year. The 2019 Mega Cruise will happen, and the band will be a part of it in some form. All up-to-date information will be at Megadeth.com as we get it. Megadeth will be back on the road as soon as possible. Meanwhile, Kiko, David, Dirk, and I are in the studio working on the follow-up to Dystopia, which I can't wait for everyone to hear. I'm so thankful for my whole team, family, doctors, band members, trainers, and more. I'll keep everyone posted. See you soon, Dave Mustaine." And a little bit more has come out about that since that news broke. Like I said, I'm getting to this one really late, so again, my apologies. Pretty scary stuff, and seems to be happening a lot with a bunch of old rockers lately. You know, Keith Richards had to take some time off, or Mick Jagger, well, Keith Richards had to take time off the road too, but it was because Mick Jagger had some heart problems that required surgery. This kind of thing happens to people that stress their bodies as hard as rock stars do, especially for as long as these guys have been doing it. I'm not saying that causes throat cancer. I'm not entirely sure. I'm just saying that these kind of ailments aren't uncommon in the world of old classic rock, or old rock that's been going on forever. Even though they're not really a classic rock style of band, you wouldn't compare them to like AC/DC or anyone like that, but they're classic rock to me because they come from a classic time. I guess they come from the same time period as all these other guys. So even though they sound totally different, they're still classified as classic rock in my mind. I've seen Megadeth 3 times, 2 or 3 times. They're an awesome band, and no doubt that once he gets through this, they're going to be back on the stage rocking, and he's going to come back even better. Because I just get that vibe from them. They're going to want to go over the top now. They're going to want to prove that they're indestructible, which I think they are, but throat cancer, that's some pretty scary shit. I think that's what Adam Yauch from the BC Boys had, MCA. I don't know if it's the same thing or anything like that. But yeah, Dave Mustaine fighting throat cancer, and that's pretty unnerving, but 90% success rate. Everything's looking good for them to get back on the road, and they're still planning on being on that boat, even if they don't actually play. They're gonna be there, and they're still working on music in the studio, which means that most of the restrictions on him from his doctors, I'm guessing, are physical as far as like performing on stage, because they're a heavy metal band, probably one of the greatest. So obviously they're pretty energetic on stage. It's not like they're George Strait, nothing against George Strait, but it's not like they're sitting up on a chair playing music. They're going crazy. It's pretty physically demanding, and so but he's still in the music making studio, which means once he gets through this and can be active, they're gonna have all new music and probably a whole new show to go out on the road with. But the news, why I bring this up, is because they were, like I said, announced for a bunch of festivals, one of them being Psycho Las Vegas. They obviously had to pull out of that, as they pulled out of everything else. And today, Psycho Las Vegas announced who's going to be replacing them, and it's the original Misfits, which that's a pretty good replacement. I mean, I imagine that they were probably in contention for this beforehand, and they ended up going with Megadeth. I'm not entirely sure. The Misfits situation is weird right now because they have been playing a lot of reunion shows in recent years. They started in 2016, I believe. I think it was 2016. I was there. I was at the first one. It was the first time they played in like 30-something years at Riot Fest in Denver, and it was awesome. But I guess they're doing these reunion shows as part of some legal agreement, although they do seem to be friendly with each other again, that being Danzig and Jerry Only. And of course, they bring Doyle to be on guitar, even though he's not an original Misfit. For me, he's from the classic lineup. And like I said, they've been playing a lot of shows lately as the original Misfits, and as the band isn't back together necessarily, I guess. They're doing these shows as part of some sort of legal settlement. Not entirely sure the details there, but they're friends too. They're not going to be making any music or anything like that, not sure. But like I said, they did Denver Riot Fest, Chicago Riot Fest back in 2016. Since then, they've done a couple shows every year, including a lot this year. They played in April in Chicago, and then later this year they're playing in Seattle and California and Denver again, and now they're playing Las Vegas, and they're just added to this already awesome lineup. Like I said, Megadeth unfortunately had to bow out, but they're still getting Electric Wizard, High on Fire, Godspeed, the Misfits. I guess I should say this festival takes place Thursday, August 15th through Sunday, August 18th. It doesn't say where. I guess I should have looked into that. My bad, but the Misfits are playing on the 17th. And yeah, they're headlining tonight at this festival, filling in for Megadeth. I think that's a solid choice. And regardless if this is just part of some legal settlement or not, it's still cool to see these guys on stage a bit together, especially since there's no obvious tension or anything like that. I remember, like, whenever bands break up and then get back together for a reunion, and it's clearly not because they want to be there, sometimes you can tell. But I've had good luck with that. I saw Guns N' Roses on tour a couple of years ago. It might have been that same year. No, it was a year after. It was 2017. But they did not seem to have any bitterness at all on stage, and Axl and Slash, and I know that's because they're getting paid millions of dollars, and there's no way the Misfits are making this much just because they weren't as mainstream. I'm not saying they don't deserve it. They should be making that much. But it's cool when they're not necessarily there because they want to. They're there for money or there for legal purposes, and it doesn't show. And that's what you're going to get here. That's what we got at Riot Fest, and that's the beauty of punk rock, is they only have to play like an hour, and they get all their hits in there. When I saw them in Denver for the first reunion show, they played like an hour and 10 minutes or something. It wasn't very long at all, and they played like 20 songs. And they got all the hits in there, Bullet and Last Caress and shit like that. So, good band to see. Awesome band for replacing Megadeth. And I have suspicions, actually, I'd be willing to put money that if Dave Mustaine is ready to hit the road again next year, then they're going to be headlining this thing next year, because they seem like they're going to try to make up for everything they miss out on this year. Not for money, but because they're fans. There's a lot of people that were looking forward to seeing them, and they'll get a chance to. I think it just won't be this year, but you get the Misfits, and I think that's a pretty fucking awesome compromise. I think there's probably a lot of people that are actually more excited about that, and I bet you there's people that go to this festival now that weren't planning on going just to see them, because although they have been playing more frequently, they took like 30 years off from being the original Misfits. Misfits were still touring as a band, but it was just Jerry only and a bunch of other dudes. Danzig back in there completes it, and like I said, even though they've been playing a lot, they haven't been doing like nationwide tours or anything. It's just usually a couple shows a year. So there's probably a lot of people that haven't got to see them on the reunion yet that are going to go to this and probably weren't planning on going before. So with the exception of Dave Mustaine getting cancer, this seems like good news for everybody. And it's good for Dave Mustaine too, because there can't be any negativity from... It's not like he's leaving them empty-handed. Like, yeah, they're not going to be able to be there, but they're getting Misfits to fill in for them. And I'm not saying Megadeth has anything to do with that, but it's still really cool. Like I said, I see it. You can't do anything about the cancer right now. It's here. It's happening. They have to take some time off. But this is the best case scenario for me. Dave gets to rest. Misfits are going to bring in a lot of money and tickets for the thing. And yeah, it's just going to make people more excited to see Megadeth when they return to the road, whenever that's going to be. So, Psycho Las Vegas, Saturday, now going to be headlined by Misfits instead of Megadeth. I think there was a couple other... Oh, there was one other news story that I'm going to talk about, which is a little old. Well, so I just heard about this the other day, but the story's actually from a little while ago. Let me see if I can pull that one up real quick. So this actually took place on June 21st. That would be the National, their tour bus, one of their tour buses. I guess it was one of the ones. They travel in 3 buses. They got like a convoy, and it was one of the ones that didn't actually have the band on it, just all their crew and stuff, hit a moose. And nobody was seriously hurt except for the moose. The moose didn't survive, I don't think. But the bus driver was like all cut up from glass and stuff, I think, but no one was seriously injured. I read an article on Polestar, which is where I'm getting this information, where they interviewed the bus driver, and he tours with all sorts of musicians and stuff. He said he knew what to do and everything like that. He said there was just no possible way he could stop. Let's see if I can pull up anything else. Along with this, so it said the Nationals tour bus, along with 2 buses and crew, were headed to Montreal in the wee hours of June 21st. Like I said, this coming from Polestar.com. After playing Thompson's Point in Portland, Maine. So they're going from Maine to Canada, and suddenly a moose appeared that rainy morning on a 2-lane section of Route 302. The driver said he was surprised, shocked, and scared. However, it was too late. He had no choice other than hit it. You never want to swerve or anything like that in a motor coach, because, of course, that could make it worse, which is kind of good advice. I mean, I don't drive a bus, so I guess if I ever do, I'll know to not try to swerve. But it seems like common sense. But if you don't do that for a living, you might not know. We just had a bad accident up in Colorado not too long ago, where a bunch of people died because a semi didn't know what to do when he was out of control and swerved into traffic, as opposed to hitting a bus, or as opposed to hitting a semi. He swerved into traffic. This is the same kind of situation. It seems like either hit what you're aiming at, or you swerve and cause a potential disaster. So he took the impact from the moose, which could have been deadly for him. He made the choice there, and it ended up being a good choice, because, like I said, no people were seriously injured from this accident. Said there was a lot of damage to the bus. Both front windshields were broken. The front end was pushed in. The headlight on the passenger side and the passenger door were all pushed out of the frame. The moose reportedly died on impact or shortly thereafter. The incident happened around 4 a.m. They pulled over. The rock band was in the bus up ahead, and they went on to the destination. But the bus driver who I should know his name. Guy named Holloway. I don't know his first name. Let's see here. Rodney Holloway. Uh, he stayed back, obviously. Well, they cleaned up the accident and made sure everything was okay and stuff like that. And yeah, he seems like the hero here. Good thing for the National. I mean, they weren't on the bus, but it's still a crazy thing to happen. And people don't realize the risks of being on tour and on the road. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure it's a fucking party, but there is a lot of danger involved. We've actually had, I can't remember which band it was. Sorry for bringing this up. I think it was Wayside. We had some band that actually crashed in my town like 10 or 15 years ago, and one of their guys died traveling on I-80 through my town. And so yeah, being on the road is very dangerous. A couple times a year we'll hear about fires or bus crashes or something. I know on the first podcast that me and Chris did, we talked about Seventh Day Slumber, I believe, getting in a accident where they hit a fire truck. Driving that much is super dangerous. So as good of a time as these guys are having, it's dangerous shit just being on the road. So, luckily, there's no really sad news to report here, except that the moose died, because moose are cool. I like moose, so it's unfortunate that that happened. But luckily, no people were seriously injured. This ended up the best way that it possibly could have, if you ask me. And so, yeah, the National involved in a bus crash with a moose, or one of their buses was involved with in a crash with a moose. Let's see where we're at here. Looks like I got 2 tour announcements to talk about, and we're at getting close to half an hour, so I might wrap it up here after this. The first one, Brittany Howard, I believe is the name of this person, from Alabama Shakes, has announced her solo tour. Let me fact check this real quick before I just start talking. Alabama Shakes has not been very active lately. I don't think they've toured since 2017 is something that I read earlier. But I have never seen them live, but apparently they're one of the most entertaining live acts. In fact, that's actually how I'd heard about them, even though I hadn't seen them yet. I hadn't heard any of their music, but they were just getting buzz based on their performances, and obviously that translated to the reception of their music. They did pretty successful charting and things like that. But their live shows, from what I hear, was what was driving them, and they haven't been super active lately, but that's cool. She's going out on her own, and she's also doing a solo album, which this is going to be in support of, but I imagine she's going to be playing some of their well-known hits also, because I'm not sure how well she could definitely carry it, but filling the seats is going to be difficult if she's not playing songs that people know. It might not be. I'm sure they've actually got some diehard fans. Just from my perspective, it's like you go see Vince Neil to hear Motley Crue songs, even though Motley Crue's not playing. He's the singer, so you're going. It's like seeing Bret Michaels, or they could play their solo songs too, but you want to hear at least a couple other hits. I think that's what's going to happen here. The tour kicks off in August, the 17th and 18th in Asheville, North Carolina. And then we go all the way until October, playing weekends. It looks like we're ending on the 13th in Atlanta, Georgia at the Afro Punk Festival. Doing a couple other festivals throughout here. Obviously ACL, that's a big one in Austin that pretty much every artist is on. Their lineup is fantastic this year. We're also playing the Ryman. That's awesome. In Nashville, Washington, D.C., London, Amsterdam, Paris, Milwaukee, St. Paul, Chicago, Toronto, New York, Boston, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and Austin again. Or no, Austin again. No, she's just doing Austin once. I just read it twice. And then wrapping up in Atlanta. So Brittany Howard going on tour, that's pretty cool if you ask me. It's awesome to be a part of an awesome band and make your money that way, but why not try to branch out? Of course, there's no indication that they're done or anything like that. I don't even know if they're on a hiatus. They're just not really doing anything, and their social media outlets were the one that announced this tour, so I'm guessing there's no hostility or anything. It's not like she's going and doing her own thing like Ice Cube because, of bitterness. It seems like she's just trying something new, and I hope it works out. And yeah, I think it's awesome. And even though this is a world tour and it takes place over 2 months, it's still a pretty small tour. This is what I think this is perfect for your first time doing a solo trek because you're going all over the board even if you're not playing that many shows. You're playing all over the place. So it kind of makes up for it. Plus it's spread out over 2 months, so she's going to have that whole time full pretty much because like I said it is pretty spread out. She's going to be bouncing all across the globe. And so, yeah, good on her. I think that's fantastic. And if it's successful and they add more dates, which is usually what this kind of thing is, this seems to me like they're testing waters. They're playing one show in each area. It's not like they're doing a trek where they're going city to city, like 100 miles max in between each date. There's like 1,000 miles probably max in between each date here. So they're testing the waters, hopefully seeing how it works. And if it's successful, if she knocks it out of the park with the solo album, even if she doesn't, people like her enough. Maybe they add more dates next year, and maybe she comes through my area and I get to see her. Looking forward to hopefully checking that out. But until then, I guess I'll just look forward to hearing about how she does on her own. But I have a feeling she's going to do great because each one of them in that band brings something. It's not like anybody's just kind of there. They all have a certain energy and charisma that they bring, which is why Alabama Shakes works. Like I said, they're known, at least for me, they're known for their performances less than their music. I'm not saying their music's bad or anything like that. I'm just saying I heard about them because I heard that they're awesome live, and she's obviously plays a big part in that. So yeah, she could do that on her own too, I'm sure. And I'm looking forward to hear how it goes. The other tour announcement to talk about, this is a big one. Godsmack is touring North America again. They kind of do every year, but they did last year. They were on a co-headliner with Shinedown, I think it was. This year, they're touring with another big band, but it's not a co-headlining. They're headlining. Godsmack is. They just got a really big, awesome band for supporting, and that is Halestorm. And I can't believe this isn't a co-headline deal. I don't know how that worked out. I get it's kind of the same feeling. I saw Papa Roach opening up for Shinedown earlier this year, and it wasn't co-headline either. Papa Roach was just the supporting act, and I was just thinking, man, I think they're on the same level to me, but doesn't take anything away from the performance. You still get to see both bands. The only exception is you don't get usually the full set as you would as if it was a co-headliner. But I think it's an awesome pairing, that's for sure. They both have similar sounds, very powerful, heavy rock music, and awesome bands to see live. I've never seen Godsmack, but I've seen Halestorm enough time, and I've seen enough bands like this to know that this is going to be a fun-ass concert. I'm definitely planning on going to this. I'll get to the dates. We're going to kick off September 20th in Wisconsin in Green Bay. We're going to wrap up on October 18th. So we're just going for about a month here. We're wrapping up in Tulsa, Oklahoma. But along the way, like I said, we're hitting all the major cities. San Diego, Phoenix, places that they were just at last year with Shinedown. Different venues, but same areas. They're coming back through again with Halestorm. So if you like Godsmack, you go check them out again and get a little extra flavor with it. West Palm Beach, Madison, Sioux Falls, Wichita, Loveland, which is where I'm going to see them, Pensacola, Salt Lake City, San Diego, Ontario, Reno, Nevada, Bakersfield. Although the Reno, Nevada, it says no Halestorm. So that's unfortunate, but you still get to see Godsmack, which is going to be worth it on its own, I think. And yeah, there we go. That's going to do it for all the news, and that's going to do it for this podcast. I have been to some shows recently. I saw Garth Brooks live in concert. Finally, I saw him on a stadium tour when he came to Denver at the beginning of June. Haven't had a chance to talk about it yet, but when I do talk about it, I'd rather have a co-host here to kind of bounce shit off of and bullshit about it because it's such an awesome thing. It was such an awesome thing. It was a great experience. I want to be able to just express that more in detail, and sometimes when I'm just sitting here talking by myself, I forget shit or it just doesn't sound the best, so I'd rather tell that in a conversation form. So next time I get Chris on here, we'll talk about Garth Brooks, but until then, that's going to do it for what I believe is episode 3. This is technically like episode 6 or something because I've started the podcast so many times and then let it go, and then started it and then let it go. But now we're officially going again. Hopefully, we did one in March, one in May. Now we're doing one in July. I'm doing one in July. And I plan on doing this every week. I'm filming this Monday night, July 1st. And so hopefully you guys will be seeing it tomorrow. And I'm also going to put the audio on all the podcast platforms and stuff like that. And I'll cut the video up too in case you don't want to sit through half an hour of me talking. Looks like we're at like 35 minutes now. So that's a pretty good run. I think I could probably do this every week. Yeah, we'll see. Until then, make sure to check out the Facebook page, join the conversation, facebook.com/concert addiction. Check out my website too, just to find out more about me. There actually isn't anything new on the site as far as concert news goes. But if you want to find out more about me and about concert addiction, go to concertaddiction.com. Also, check out don't check it out, you're right here, because I'm assuming you're watching this on YouTube. Although you might be listening, in which case, thank you. Wherever you're listening or watching, make sure to subscribe. If you're on YouTube, subscribe and hit that bell. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought. Like I said, I'm going to be trying to do this every Monday night. Hopefully get it out to you guys Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for watching, and until next time, bye.